naturalistic fallacy, also known as the is-ought fallacy, is the fallacy of assuming that because something is, it ought to be. It's an attempt to base a moral judgment on facts alone. This can't be done because moral judgments invariably involve an appeal to a set of values. And values and facts are different things. Facts are objective, values are necessarily subjective, as they are always assigned by the valuer doing the valuing. It is a fact that this is a gold nugget. However, it is not a fact that it's worth a significant amount of money. That's a value assignment. It may be a fact that the assignment has been made, but that's beside the point. What is the point is that in the absence of a valuer to do the valuing, the nugget has no value, but it will still remain a gold nugget. Facts are objective, values are subjective. Yes, even a hypothetical value shared by everyone, though I doubt such a value exists. Hell, there are even people who pay to have other people literally shit on them. An argument including this fallacy can look like this. Premise 1, X is, or is not. Premise 2, hidden, that which is not objectively ought not to be. Conclusion, therefore X ought not to be. For example, someone might make the following argument. Premise, Billy is poor. Conclusion, therefore it would be morally wrong to give him money. Or, premise, homosexuality is not the norm. Conclusion, therefore homosexuality is morally wrong. If you can't see the problem, have a look at this. Premise, people steal. Conclusion, therefore stealing is a moral obligation, as in people ought to steal. Get it now? You cannot derive an ought from an is alone. The fallacy often takes a more complicated form, such as this. Premise 1. Behavior B is inconsistent with value V. Premise 2, hidden, I hold value V. Premise 3, hidden, that which is objectively ought to be. Conclusion 1, hidden, therefore V is an objectively correct value. Conclusion 2, therefore B is an objectively immoral behavior. In this case, the is that I hold a value. This fallaciously leads me to therefore I ought to hold that value, meaning that holding the value is an objective moral obligation. Thus, the value is incorrectly treated as being objective and therefore binding for everyone. Let's look at an example. Is it morally acceptable to eat meat? No, says the vegan, because all animals have the same right to live as humans. All animal life, including human life, is of equal value. But the meat eater does not share this value. So, who's right? Is it or is it not morally acceptable to eat meat? They can argue until they turn blue. It's pointless because they're both equally right and equally wrong. It's not morally acceptable according to the vegan, but it is morally acceptable according to the meat eater. That's it. There is no right or wrong without a set of values, so it's a bad question to begin with. We can't give an objective answer because there isn't one, and thinking otherwise will lead to a naturalistic fallacy. While on this topic, some meat eaters actually go so far as to say that humans are omnivores, so it follows that we ought to eat meat. This is of course also a naturalistic fallacy. Theists, of course, think that they have the perfect solution to the is-ought problem. God's values are objectively right. Sorry, setting aside the fact that they can't even show that God exists, much less that he has the values they claim he has, since theists disagree with each other about what values that would be, God's values would still be values and as such subjective. Adding agree or you'll be tortured forever doesn't change this. It also turns it into an ad baculum, but that's a fallacy for another time. The naturalistic fallacy is also committed all the time in discussions about politics or social justice issues, even by people who are otherwise good skeptics. Both sides tend to accuse the other of being irrational for holding views that can't be supported and for rejecting views that are demonstrably correct. The problem is that both sides make arguments that may very well be perfectly valid, but that appeal to values that the other side simply doesn't share. Both therefore find their own arguments sound, but not their opponents. Now for the elephant in the room. I end these videos by showing a picture of Spock, so let's address this one. In The Wrath of Khan, Spock says, "Logic dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few." We can interpret this in two ways. One is that he indeed commits a naturalistic fallacy by making a moral judgment based on logic alone, that is, without appealing to a set of values. The other is that he's talking to Kirk, whom he knows shares his moral values, including that the well-being of each individual is equally important, so he leaves that part out. Or it was just bad writing. But it's Star Trek, so that can't possibly be the... Okay, I stand corrected. Stay logical.